So like I said, just what we're going to be doing today at least is welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Anyone know the song?
No.
No? There's swag. No one watched Welcome Back, Kotter? Am I that old? Okay. John Travolta? Okay. So welcome back to actually in-person user groups. Look up Welcome Back, Kotter. It's great. We're so excited to have you. Like I said, these are intros. What we're planning to do from really here on out again is very much the same format that we've done, but we are going to be asking you guys online and in person your feedback. What you guys want to get out of this? Something I've always said at user groups is you're coming after work on a work week to learn about work, so we want to make this worth your while as much as possible. Some of you may have no idea who I am. My name is Tali Kulia. I am a Microsoft Fabric and Power BI MVP. I've been actually leading the Chicago Power BI and Fabric user group since 2019. We did a lot in person. We really had a really great attendance, and obviously something happened. I can't remember what, and we did a lot online after that. And like I said, so this is something we're really excited to start out. I've been working in Power BI since 2015, and the reason why the MVP and the reason why I literally started a company was because of networking, because of user group things like this, actually meeting people here. So it's exciting to see people show up already. We're really excited. The man of the hour, the second man of the hour is Mike Carlo. And if you don't know who Mike Carlo is, you probably don't know what Power BI is either. They are synonymous. It goes Microsoft and Mike Carlo.
No.
So Mike Carlo is a great friend of mine. He's also leads the Milwaukee Power BI and Fabric user group with Seth Bauer. Mike is a consultant. He's been doing this for a ton of time. Microsoft depends on Mike Carlo.
Nope.
And then finally, if you like what you're hearing today, but wish me and Mike talked a lot less, well, there's a quick podcast that we do that talks a lot about Power BI. We talk about the why behind besides the how. Obviously, our user groups, you read articles about how to do something. We talk a lot about the how or the why and what it actually means in the real world. With that, and in perfect timing, we're going to go straight into, we really want to think, in order to get this all going and on site, it's not just a phone call and everybody shows up. It takes a lot of work with a lot of people. So I want to thank the Microsoft staff here. And I want to thank our sponsor. Yep. I want to thank our, see, I guess we haven't clapped in 5 years. I'm not surprised. I want to thank our sponsor, and that's going to be Gil Raviv. He has a new product, and he's actually our sponsor for the user group today. All the food that you see here today and the lights are because of Gil. So I want to actually introduce Gil to the stage, and I'll let you kind of run with it. So
thank you so much. Can you show us?
Absolutely. So we'll let you set up. And Gil just walked in. There's a lot going on here.
Sorry guys for being late. Traffic jam.
It happens. It's Chicago.
You're not used to driving, so.
Don't have
Sorry.
You just gotta leave it up top.
Now, Gil was a previous MVP, maybe an MVP again soon, but Gil is a professional presenter because he knows how to present because he's an MVP. So grab the mic.
Very good presenter. Very good presenter. Okay. You see my screen? Good.
Grab the magnet.
So.
Yep.
Oh.
There you go. You're good now.
Okay.
Perfect. Good audio.
Thank you. So I have 15 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Take as long as you need.
Stop me.
I'll stop you. I'll pull you off the stage.
Get me with violence out.
Right on the table.
Okay.
Pick it up.
Thank you so much.
Pick it up.
So, thank you for having me today. My name is Gil Raviv. I was a Microsoft MVP for 5 years. My career in business intelligence started as a product manager in Microsoft Excel. I was like one of the people bringing Power Query into Excel 2016. Then moved to Chicago, moved from being a product manager to do consulting. Became Microsoft MVP, wrote a book about Power Query. If you are into Power Query and doing data wrangling magic and don't know my book, that's like you can learn a lot, so you can try. I had a blog, datachunk.com. Was in consulting for 6 years, leading eventually more than 200 Power BI developers globally for building lots of stuff with Power BI for enterprises. Moved to AWS, competition-wise, Amazon QuickSight, was a product manager and also lead practice of BI practitioners worldwide for QuickSight on Amazon, and then decided that it's time to move back. So I'm here back with you. There is going louder, so that you'll probably be able to see soon also my second edition of the book. And then I hope, with thanks to the book, to go back to become a Microsoft MVP.
Yeah.
But until then, I just wanted to share with you an exciting product that I developed, which is called BI Pixie, relevant for Power BI. So just like very quickly, all of you are working with Power BI, right? How many of you are delivering for your organization mission-critical Power BI reports? The rest that doesn't raise hand are here for personal Power BI development. So basically, you do lots of Power BI development for your organization's company, and with Microsoft capabilities out of the box, how can you know if your reports are successful? Anyone? Any ideas? What makes your report successful?
No complaints.
No complaints.
If they're asking how do I export it to Excel?
Yeah. So
Oh,
actually,
yeah, that's good.
an export to Excel is actually a failure. Actually, because why would they pay for all the licenses in Power BI and all the consulting firms like I was leading in the past? They were very expensive. So today, the only things that you can do in terms of understanding how your reports, if your reports are successful, is looking at Power BI usage metrics, telling you only how much your audience are opening the reports, only opening the reports. So if I'm a bad person opening your great report, I open it and I just edit it and do nothing, perhaps I just export it to Excel, you cannot differentiate me from someone else who is highly engaged, clicking and dicing and slicing and gain insight to their business. You cannot measure, you cannot differentiate between these two personas. And that's why I developed a product that helps you solve that problem. Let me just do a very quick demo. So basically, just 1 second, go very quickly and open this one. Go to powerbi.com. Oh, you clicked on it.
I got you here.
Go to MSFT test.
Which one?
MS Connect, yep.
No, MSFT test. Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. There you go. There you
This
go.
one?
Yep. It connects.
Okay.
Choose event attendee code. And then it's MS event 122.
MS event 1 to 2.
Yep.
Thanks.
I don't know how secure that password is, but we can block that out on the live stream, so.
You can also use that.
Yeah, we can cut that out.
So what you're going to see now is my Power BI solution. I'll start by basically telling you how BI Pixie works very, very quickly. And I know I have like 50 minutes for typically something I will do in 30 minutes. Second.
Thought about it.
This one. So BI Pixie, it's a solution that you can deploy on your environment. Acts like kind of like Google Analytics for your dashboards. Imagine that every Power BI report that you deliver is a digital product. You want to measure the success of that product. It's not just about page views. It's not just about like the semantic model performance. because performance will only get you back the utilization of the licenses and capacities. But what about the business return on investment, about the value that you drive for your end users, right? For that, you need much more. So you can deploy BI Pixie on your environment, and it will be like your suite of product management and the health of your digital product, which is your Power BI dashboards. It will give you adoption, attrition, user satisfaction, and many more capabilities. And everything is being deployed on your environment so the data never leaves your organization. I am not acting as a software as a service. Everything is deployed from Azure Marketplace. The solution has basically three elements. The first one, you deploy on your either Azure Marketplace or Power Platform if you just have some very quick reports that you just want to test. So that installation will basically act like a web service collecting the events from the reports. The second element is an executable that you run with your CI/CD process or your Git integration with your Power BI workspaces, or locally if you have all your Power BI reports, you run the executable there. It will instantiate the tracking devices, which we call the pixies. Those magical invisible creatures will be instantiated into your Power BI reports as building blocks. It's not like a custom visual or JavaScript or something very suspicious or strange, just natural building blocks of Power BI visuals that act like your tracking beams for user engagement. And once you collect all this information, you can install the Power BI app from Power BI from App Source. Sorry. Let me just show you now when you see my screen. This is how the Power BI app look like. Okay, so you have here very rich information about user adoption. So for example, here you can see how many users you have per report, how many of those users are passive, just opening those pages but clicking on nothing. What is the customer satisfaction? Part of this solution, we have also ability to instrument thumbs up, thumbs down, smile frown buttons into your report. So now your audience can start collecting, sending their opinion, feedback about the reports. So you can collect them as customer satisfaction. You can see that here as well. And you have also additional information. So monthly active users, daily active users, report stickiness. You divide daily active users with monthly active users, user satisfaction information, including the correlation between satisfaction and other elements that you have for interactivity or engagement, how much you are losing your end users, so the attrition of them. Design impact, so we collect all the complexities of your reports in terms of design, and now we can correlate the complexity with the engagement levels in your report. So you can basically improve reports that are too complex or lack bookmarks and slicers, and you want to enrich your end users with better experience. Yeah, so all that is relevant there, and just like to show you very, very quick, how much time do I have?
I'll give you like another 5 minutes.
Okay, so just like to show you live how the solution track the information, I'll go here into a demo environment where I already instrumented the pixies into the reports. So you can see here, and I also open very quickly a database table where I installed BI Pixie in. So I told you that you have two architectures to choose from. One is on Azure. You deploy it from Microsoft Azure Marketplace. It has a function app and a storage lake to store the events. The other one that is faster is basically using a database table and a Power Automate flow. So you just install them from App Source. And I just wanted to show you here when I'm opening a report. So I'll take this one, for example, marketing campaigns. And the report loads. So now I'm acting like an end user opening this report. And I, for example, can click on bookmark 3. Okay. And you can see here when I refresh this table, oh, here is this event. A marketing campaign report was tracked. This is the event type, the bookmark. Bookmark number 3 is collected. and more information, including the visual name. I can go here, for example, and instead of like bookmark 3, let's go clicking on some slicer. So I click on Belgium, and perhaps you see the thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm very happy with this report, so I click the thumbs up. And now you can see the data is also being collected here. So I have a thumbs up event, and I have also a slicer event. And with the slicers, you can even see that the Belgium country was selected. So now imagine you have like a massive amount of deployment, perhaps with very complex row-level security implementation, and you want to be able to understand, like, perhaps even your row-level security has some flows. You can basically track all that through BI Pixie. And yeah, and just like finally, you're welcome to just basically go to bipixie.com to learn more about it. There is a free 30-day trial. And for all of you here that attended the session, you're welcome to get an extended trial for 2 months. Just reach out to me and I will help you deploy it. So thank you for the time. I hope you enjoy the session today.
Grab the mic.
Thanks, Bert. Finally, there's something like that. I think we've been waiting for a solution. There's been some solutions, but nothing with actually showing the values like that seamlessly. So,
yep.
Gil, I'll be talking to you. So
we've been talking about this for a while. It's been a kind of a good thought, and we've been noodling around some architecture. So you've changed some architecture changes here. So the Azure Marketplace is a good solution there.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to do is not thank you, but finally, I actually want to introduce Tim, who's going to be giving. He's really the man of the hour today. So Tim is one of the leaders. He's data analyst, data scientist, Milwaukee tried and true. And I don't think there's really much more to be said. I want to let Tim take it away. He's going to talk about some really amazing things from the administration side. We're all looking forward to it. So Tim.
Awesome. All right. Awesome. Up here. Thank you. All right.
He's got one.
Really good segue. What you were showing me, that's really awesome. It's going to play well into where I am. So we'll plug this in.
Yep. Go ahead. Just put it in case.
All right, we're good?
You're good.
Awesome. All right. Here's what we're going to cover. We're going to do a quick intro and an overview, right? The capacity administration and admin monitoring architecture, right? So you guys are talking about, what is available today. My team's to build it. So really excited to talk about what we're doing, right? And we'll get into where that strategy and upcoming content that's coming out there, which hopefully, this will kind of play really well together. All right, my name is Tim Bindis. I'm the Principal Data Analyst Manager at Microsoft. So similar to a lot of the PMs, that you engage with, I'm kind of the guy behind the scenes. And so I run a couple teams that build out kind of the out-of-the-box content for like admin monitoring, right? The feature usage and adoption reporting, the usage metrics is coming, is falling under my team, the next iteration of it, capacity metrics. And then we have some internal stuff that we created as well that will eventually propagate its way out into customer-facing or public-facing admin content. Right? The way I like to put it is like my team is building the tools that admins use to manage Fabric. Cool. Joined Microsoft in 2022. So I've been here 2.5 years. So prior to that, I actually started working with Power BI way back when. Early on in my career, and we actually pitted Tableau against Power BI. Company I was with at the time. Power BI was a less mature product, but I liked it enough that I went and pursued a career in it, and it landed me at Microsoft. So, kind of an interesting path to get here. And then prior to joining Microsoft, I was a Power BI administrator, right? So I was in a role where I was complaining enough that Mike invited me to start talking to him. And yep. One thing led to another, that led me here. And I'm based out of Milwaukee, so it's a quick drive down, for this presentation today. All right, first thing I want to do is get a pulse check. All right, so if you guys have your phones, try and scan the QR, or if you want to just go to the AK link, Couple questions to just kind of get, you know, like a feel for the room. I know a lot of you guys already, but you know, interested to learn a little bit more about the group. While we do that, I'm going to proceed forward. Let me know when you guys have, when everybody has their notes on. Good? Everybody good? All right, I'm going to proceed forward while you guys work on that. All right, so as I was mentioning, I'm on the engineering side, so I have product management counterparts. If you guys have ever met or you know, ran into or seen any of the content coming from Chris or Wukash, right? They're my PMs for capacity. And then I'm on, like I said, on the engineering side, kind of behind the scenes, making that all work. Let's start off with what is the capacity metrics app? How many of you guys are familiar with the capacity metrics app? Boom, boom, boom. Might be a better question. Is anyone unfamiliar with the capacity metrics app? Perfect. All right, let me tell you a little bit about it. So if you're a Fabric administrator, right, you go out to the app portal or whatever they're calling it these days, you download this app that you install, allows you to connect to this underlying certified event store, and you can pull data on what's happening with your capacity. You can manage, you know, the limits of that premium capacity. Right, it's a product that's been out there for, you know, quite a few years. It's been pretty heavily used, and it's the tool that we, you know, have created internally, you know, to understand where the cost, you know, applied to your capacity is going. It's near real time, right? So when you're looking at it, you know, as you see people doing activity within Power BI, you're able to look to see how it translates into CU consumption, which is the unit, you know, cost that gets applied to your capacity. Yeah, that's the team that the tool that my team creates. Let's go into like what that all entails, right? So as I mentioned, it goes against this thing called the Certified Event Store. Are you guys familiar with Kusto or Azure Data Explorer? Is that a product you guys are all familiar with? It's obviously the Fabric workload. I think people are learning a little bit more about it. Do you guys know? Is it Azure Data Explorer or Kusto?
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
Good.
I mean, Kusto's.
Yeah.
It's both.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Kusto is the internal code name.
Yeah. My apologies. As product, yes, I call it Kusto. You guys may know it as.
So when we launched it, we called it Azure Data Explorer.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Awesome. And then and so there's this underlying Azure Data Explorer cluster, and we're streaming all of the event records that are occurring, you know, for every Fabric workload into these clusters. And then my team has built direct query reports that call functions through a custom connector to get access to that data, right? And so that's why, you know, the metrics app, as Pat's really familiar with, it can be pretty complicated if you ever try to look at the data models, right? Because it's designed for direct query performance, right? And we have to optimize, you know, like what columns get pulled into each visual and put limits on stuff. So we have to do some real complex things, you know, to make that work. So just from a diagramming standpoint, you can see we have 4 underlying tables, right, that get exposed through Kusto functions into the connector that are used by our report. I'm going to pause there, see if anybody has any questions about, you know, that design, about the capacity metrics app, you know, about this underlying architecture. If anyone has questions, I'll fill it.
I was gonna say.
Go ahead. What do you have, Mike?
Oh, this is this tenant splitting, right? So what does this look like? This is I mean, I'm looking at this certified event store. This is like from Microsoft's, all the events that they're looking at. Like seems like it could be huge.
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, and so let's talk about it, right? So like some of the benefits of this architecture is it is near real time, right? And so if I did like a hourly or daily load, right, like that misses the opportunity for admins to address issues as they're occurring, right? So it was like one of the big architectural hurdles that we got over is like, how do we get the data there as soon as possible, right? Now, when I say near real time, that's significantly different than real time, right? And I'll talk a little bit about it. This is slightly upstream of, you know, the certified event store, but data getting into the certified event store is workloads are over here doing stuff, right? So Power BI is, we're all familiar with Power BI, so I'll use that as an example. The analysis services engine is running, it's doing stuff, right? When it is running a job, it's sending telemetry into what we call our multi-workload capacity. Think of it as the engine behind the fabric capacity model, right? And then when that engine gets that data, it takes it and then applies things like smoothing, bursting, right, all of the capacity-related functionality to to that record, and then emits that into certified event telemetry. So all of that, all of those processes, all those hops, they take a certain amount of time, right? Which is why it is near real time and not like there's some big scheduling engine running under the covers that we can like tap into. So whenever you're looking and you're saying like, hey, why do I have a certain latency, right? That's the architecture leading into that certified event. And that covers on some of the limitations. Kusto does have some limits. Or how many of you have worked with Azure Data Explorer? How many of you have worked with Azure Data Explorer and run into any of those limits? You familiar with any of it? Querying limits? No, sorry, behind the film.
What were the limits?
All right.
There's some other, like the ingestion time.
So the ingestion time is going in there. So actually, your query results. So it's like building out your as you're building your query, right? There's some limits, like I think there's like a 5 gig limit, per node of like collecting data, right? And then the result set has to be 500,000 records or 64 megs, right? So that means when we're building these direct query calls, we have to fall within those limits, right? So if I add too many columns, I have to reduce the number of rows to make sure that the user experience doesn't fit. So it's some fun stuff. As more and more people are using Azure Data Explorer, I'm hoping that some of the work that my team has done is establishing good working patterns for people to be able to build direct query content on top of Azure Data Explorer. And then one of the really big ones is the app installation experience. It's kind of, right? I see a bunch of heads shaking. So we're well aware of that, and we have something that I want to show you guys tonight that will hopefully change that experience for you.
Not to derail you.
Yeah.
In Fabric,
Yes.
it's back to being called Custo DB.
I was right. All right. Boom. Okay. Kusto, Azure Data Explorer, whatever you choose to call it. Thank you for looking up. All right. Any questions before I proceed?
No questions online.
Awesome. All right. So that was the overview of the capacity of reporting. Let's dive into the admin monitoring workspace. I asked that on the survey, but how many of you are familiar with the admin monitoring workspace? Couple hands. How many are not? Perfect. So the admin monitoring workspace is if you are a tenant administrator, similar to how every user has my workspace, you'll now have this admin monitoring workspace that has a whole bunch of content. Sorry, right now it has some content there by default, right? And so you'll see right now there's like feature usage and adoption reporting in Purview Hub, right? And those reports get installed by default. There's no app installation experience anymore, and the like updates and stuff kind of flow through without having to manage any of that. Pretty cool. I was talking about the admin monitoring, so how the capacity team has Chris and Lukash as PMs. The admin monitoring team is Bogan and Varun, right? So if you guys have seen any of their content out there, those are our PMs. And then on my side, I have Iqbal is on my team, and he's the engineering side. And actually, a couple of you guys, were any of you guys at Next Steps? Okay, so Iqbal presented there. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see his presentation. So he did a deep dive on the admin monitoring content, kind of where that's headed. All right, so, sorry, I skipped the slide there. This is the admin environment, that one-stop shop for all your analytics platforms, all that sort of fun stuff. Any questions on admin monitoring? Yeah.
How much is this going to play into that new OneLake catalog, that they announced too?
Yeah, okay, so OneLake
Can you,
catalog.
can you just repeat the question for online?
Yes, so how will this play into the OneLake catalog, right? So the catalog team is more on the governance side. So if you think about the like layers of administration, right? So my team's kind of working from the tenant level to the capacity level down, whereas the OneLake catalog team is looking at workspace up, right? And then there's this spot where we meet in the middle. And so what's really cool about it internally, my team is building the foundational platform that team uses, right, to get at their data. So I built something that is tenant-wide, right? And so like the Purview Hub report is an example of, we built this platform's product, that they then added like attributes or dimensional, attributes into it, and then they were able to build their content off of it with the OneLake Hub and all of that stuff, I believe the plan is, we'll coordinate with my team, which means anything that they start to expose, we'll be able to percolate up as well, and to the administrator level.
Perfect, thank you. And we have one quick comment by Alex Powers.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell Tim, great slide deck.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. Thanks. Hold on. We'll get to his slide, the one he contributed to in a little bit.
All right, excellent.
Awesome. All right. So, which this kind of gets into the question you just asked, which is who is this workspace intended for? Right. This is made for the global administrators and Fabric admins. Right. We have capacity administrators and domain admins. I have don't have highlighted quite yet. We'll get to that later. And then that will power user and COE leads, right, is where the one-link catalog fits in. So the goal is to fill out this whole stack, with out-of-the-box content. Cool? All right. So let's talk about how that admin monitoring store works, right? So where the capacity metrics reporting is near real-time, right, the admin monitoring content is designed to be able to get at a whole bunch of stuff that's already available through like the APIs. Right, so I'm assuming, have any of you guys built anything off of any of the Fabric APIs? Yep. Awesome, cool. So you guys are familiar, right, with the activity event API, the admin APIs, the scanner APIs, all that stuff, right? That's a pretty steep area to entry, right, for a lot of smaller organizations or a lot of less mature organizations to like even get started not having that content available. So what we did is we built a process that grabs all of that data. Builds out the dimension, like the dimension tables there. So let's go to the next slide here. So you have metadata, right? You have event records that are coming. Those go into an index generator, right? So we basically take all of the natural key structures, we put a surrogate key onto the natural key structures. That gets turned into, I know I'm gonna put some of you to sleep, but don't worry, I'll wake you back up in a couple minutes. We put that into what becomes structured metadata, right? And then meanwhile, as event records come in, can look at the natural key structures on those, like in the event records. We find the matching, surrogate key value, and we replace it. So instead of having a whole bunch of strings in these event records that are just pouring through like an audit log, right? It becomes a really thin table with a bunch of keys, right? And that allows us to scale this. So when we were looking at initially trying to, for like years before I was on the team, they kept trying to figure out how we could pull in audit data into a report. Right? And what we found out is like we can have 50, 60, 70 gigs of audit data, right? Which just isn't feasible to use Power BI as a compute engine to be able to handle that. With this structure, we were able to scale it, with a safety factor built in to be able to incorporate all of what has now become Fabric into that process. And then it makes it reusable, right? So all that structured metadata becomes dimensions. All of the structured event records, those become our fact tables. And then you can build Power BI content that can pull from this internal store, right? So under the covers, this thing is like really cool. It's part of what I've created in the 2.5 years that I've been here, and it's kind of the foundational layer for what we're going to be building next. You have a question?
Quick question. The technical challenge you mentioned, is it because the data is collected multi-tenant for you, or it's like per tenant?
No,
That's the
bigger customers have a lot of audit records.
So that's a per tenant
quick question.
challenge.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so yes, the question was, is it that it's like multi-tenant, and like what was the architecture, or like what was the problem that we were trying to solve, right? Yeah, it's like pulling in just the raw audit event records, right? It was too much data, right? So the analysis services engine, is really designed around, like the technical methodology star schema, right? And having just large flat files of data isn't where it thrives, right? So by building out that key structure and being able to create the relationships, to have fact and dimension tables in the model allowed us to scale the reporting, well beyond what we could do just off of the raw data. Does that make sense? That answer your question? Awesome, cool. All right, any questions on this? Good?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Let's talk a little bit, some of the benefits, right? The scalability is obviously a huge benefit for it. And reusability, as I mentioned, like any other, any of the other teams, if they have reporting that they want to add in, like Purview Hub, right? They can come in and be like, oh, hey, we have a dimension, that we want to add. Let's say domain, right? Okay, does domain exist already? No. Is it on our backlog to do? Maybe, right? But they're like, hey, it's a priority for us. So I've actually been able to coordinate and partner with other teams to add in stuff that's on our backlog, right? Because they have a priority to get it in there, and then they build reporting on it, which then allows my team to pull forward, our content. Really cool stuff internally. I know I'm geeking out a little. I apologize. All right, and then as far as some of the limits, right? Admin monitoring workspace is designed to be run in the like a shared work. I would say shared workspace. What's the Power BI Pro workspace, right? And so we have the same limits as a normal, workspace would have, as far as having files that are only a gig in size, right? And so we have to work around all the same limits that you have, in building in like a Pro workspace. And it doesn't support, at this point in time, it does not support any of the Fabric workflows. So we're limited to capabilities of Power BI, right? Maybe that's something we change in the future.
Was it 10 GB? Probably at one.
Is it 10 G? Okay, I thought it was one gig file. I thought it was.
For pro users, you can only upload a 1 gig file.
One gig file.
Yeah, 1 gig file is all you can upload as a pro user.
Mhm.
And then premium pro users, like holes and barred on there. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a whole different architecture. And it's
Yep.
actually two different code bases behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so that's a limiting factor for us. But what it does do is you can have this running, and if you're, say you have a capacity that goes into, some sort of throttled state, it doesn't affect, the content that's running on it, because it is running on like a separate level. Cool. And then what's been really cool about this process for us is a lot of the data that we work with is like unstructured, semi-structured data, right? So if any of you guys have, had to work with a lot of that, validation off of, semi-structured data is really hard, right? And like as a developer at Microsoft, we don't have access to any customer data, right? So everything gets hashed, and like filtered in a way that like I can't see it, right? So if we have unstructured data and I can't see what the values are, how can I do any sort of validations, right? So with this whole indexing process, we can go out there and we can define a user through a series of keys. It generates that index value when it goes to do the index replacement, right? If it can't find a match, the audit record forgot to send, an identity, a proper identity column, and it can't find the user, right? It errors, and we now have a mechanism that we can push back to the workload teams, right, to go fix the process that is causing that to happen. So if you guys have been working with any of the audit stuff, you may have seen data quality improvements over the last year or two, right? That's being driven by things that we've been able to identify through this process, right? Which is going to get into some of, where this is going is we've been really taking like Roche Max as an example. If Matthew's listening, pushing as much of the transformation as far upstream as possible. And one of the benefits of that is everybody downstream gets the benefit. Cool.
We just have one more question. It's also from, I guess it's yeah. And what is Tim's favorite item that emits telemetry, and why is it Data Flows Gen 2?
All right.
repeat the question.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Repeat the question for people online.
Great. Alex, we'll take that one up offline. Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna wake you guys all up for a second. I apologize for anybody whose eyes rolled to the back of the head as we kind of dove into the nuts, the bolts of the admin monitoring store. I figured I'd ask a couple questions, right? The data that we work with, and one of the limitations of all of the reporting that my team puts out is 30 days worth of data, right? And that's a Microsoft policy. We don't store your data, right? Therefore, I can't build content that holds more than 30 days, right? So on a rolling 30-day average, the capacity metrics app, right, has all the data in Custo, Measure Data Explorer, right? How many records do you guys think we have at the operation level?
Whoever gets this right gets some swag, by the way.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes,
Would
so.
you be able to write some
I
numbers
have my
up that people
laptop, I
write?
could query it now.
I know you could. I want some guesses. Do you mind writing on the board when right? All right. Let's give me some guesses. Throw it out there. How many records do you think are in a rolling 30-day window?
10 million.
Operations within all of Fabric.
10 million. All of Fabric.
Are we
Hold on.
there?
All of Fabric. 10 billion. If we're talking all of Fabric.
10 billion?
150.
All of Fabric, though.
Are we
Are we doing price is right rules? Yeah. There you go.
We are.
One
Price is right, yeah.
One-
So
All right,
can't
price
go
is right rules. So, what, closest but not over?
Close but not over.
Okay, sounds good.
1 trillion.
Ooh.
1 trillion.
1T.
Who's that?
What's the average size of a record?
What do you mean by the size of a record? We'll get, that's the second one. Oh, the size of a record?
Yeah.
So, 480. That's a good question. I can do the math here quick, but,
Influence my guess.
yeah, I know. I don't know. I need to look at it because it's
Anyone for a
it's
dollar?
varying because it's dependent on which columns actually get filled out. So I have to do it. I don't have that off the top of my head. I apologize.
No worries. We'll go 240 billion.
240 billion. All right.
I'm going with 1.
1 billion.
All right,
One
there we go.
one record a month.
One. Awesome.
Billion.
We got 10 billion, 150 billion, 1 trillion, 480 billion, 5 trillion, 240 billion, 151 billion, and $1.
Awesome. $1. Perfect. All right. So the answer to that is it is 65,650,000 records.
I win.
I knew the
our
answer
role.
because I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
I was
You
like,
said 5 trillion?
60,
65 billion. 65 billion.
65 billion.
5 trillion's over.
10 billion.
Yeah, 5
That
trillion.
was me just to give it to somebody.
10 billion one.
10 billion
All right.
one.
Wow, you guys had a lot of high numbers. We're generating a lot of
Who said that?
I did. Just give it to somebody. There you
All
go.
right, while you're getting that. So that is just the operation table, right? So of those 4 tables that I was saying, this is the one that for every operation that gets run within Fabric, records are being emitted, and some of the workloads will send like in process statuses on that, right? So depending on like the length of the job, you can get multiple records, right? Some of them will
Just
only
pick
send a
some-
single one,
just
but
pick it and give it out.
65 billion.
and this is a 30-day average.
That's a 30-day rolling window. So as Power BI has grown and Fabric continues to grow, this number will change significantly. Continues to change significantly. It's just what happens to be my 30 days next. So the next question is Kuso storage, right? So how much storage? To answer your question, I didn't want to tell you too much because the next question is how much storage does that take up?
Oh, that's why you're asking the records. Size of the record.
I roughly know how many blocks we generated it is.
All right. Do we have some guesses?
What's the payload?
That's what we.
I'll say like, I mean, if that's 65 transactions, a couple kilobyte, 10 kilobyte maybe per thing, you're probably looking at what 1.2 terabytes, 1.5 terabytes maybe.
1.5 terabytes.
Is that your
Ma-
guess?
that's be my guess.
Let's break this up. Do you want to write it?
1.5 terabytes.
You want me to do it? Here, I got it.
You got it, Mike? All right.
Anybody else got guesses?
All right.
2 terabytes.
2?
Yeah, Gil says 2 terabytes.
More than I can count. I only have so many fingers and toes.
I'm gonna go with 1 again, storage.
One more.
One byte.
One byte?
Yeah.
I mean, I would expect this number to be higher because now you guys know how many records are there. So all you have to do is come up with a payload size for it. Sorry. I can see some phone calculators going. All right. Are we ready? Anybody else have a guess?
We'll go wild. We'll go petabyte.
All right. 74 terabytes.
Whoa.
74,000 gigs of data.
Gil gets a shirt.
There you go.
I said 2.
Awesome. Yeah, so if you think about that, like we are directory calls against this data, right? So when you guys are looking at the metrics app and it takes, 5 seconds to load, obviously, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is, like this is the amount of data, the underlying data that we're getting at. So especially when you get down to like the operation level, like any table of data that's pulling back a bunch of columns, and this is what it's querying against. Also, why you've seen some of the architectural redesigns that we've done for the visuals, right? Where when you hover over like the item table, it pulls up the operations, right? To get at the operation, level details is really expensive. So we want to be able to expose it in a way that you can see it, but we're also building it in a way that that initial load experience is optimized. With that being said, so this admin monitoring store, while the Kusto architecture is designed for capacity reporting, the admin monitoring architecture is more audit and metadata focused, right? And I said we built the thing to be optimized. So you hope, I'll let you guys guess, but what do you think the total storage size of the admin monitoring store? And that excludes, any of the ingress or egress compute to get there.
So it'll be a number smaller than that number.
One would hope.
But that's for the average customer
No, it's across all the entire market.
across Microsoft.
Across worldwide, not just
Yeah.
365,000 customers?
Yes. Any guesses? Throw some numbers lower than 74 out there.
Yes.
But just like one question, all this data is just for the monitoring, right? It's not like bugs, logs of like code and Power BI.
No, that is one table that tells you every time an operation
Yeah,
is
just-
done.
yeah.
That's it. So it's way bigger. Like the total amount of data, the
Yeah,
telemetry that we have available is
Yeah.
massive, right? And I could get into, each of
Every
the tables
trace
and
in
the
the
storage
code
stuff
that is
versus
running
like,
some.
versus all that stuff. But no, at a high level, this is one table, which is like the operation table, it's like the primary detail table used for the capacity reporting.
I'll take 73 terabytes.
Perfect. All right.
We have 1 terabyte.
Take it. 1 terabyte, well, you win.
Oh, you
It's
win.
5.3 terabytes data is the admin monitoring store. So for any of you guys who built anything off of the APIs and tried to store that, right? You guys have an idea of about, what your internal storage sizes might be, right? Compare that to that number next time we look at it. All right. So with all that being said, there's a lot that goes into the scale factor of what my team is building, right? So I figured, it would be, a good conversation and my fun facts actually kind of talk about like what my team structure looks like, right? At the core of my team are data analysts, right? So I would fall into the category of data analyst. Some of you have met Iqbal, right? He's a data analyst. And we're kind of like that glue, right? That's out there working with the product managers to understand the business requirements and the customer requirements and working with engineering to figure out like what data is actually accessible, right? And how can we get pipelines built to service that data so that my BI developers can go and build content on top of it, right? And so I have a very specialized team of BI developers, right, who understand our entire tech stack from the Power BI reporting into the M code that gets used for the custom connector and down into the Kusto database that understand, like when you're building a DAX function, how does that fold all the way down to the underlying Kusto, right? And each stage of transformation along the way to make sure that as we're building stuff, we're building it to be as performant as possible and scale, as well as possible. And then that's more of the customer-facing content, right, that we're building. But I also have a team that kind of bookends the customer-facing content with how do we get telemetry into the system, right? So that team, I have data scientists that are looking at, in our case, it's like open report performance, right? So every time that you open, this is probably really close to some of the stuff you're working on, is every time you open a Power BI report, there's a certain amount of metadata that gets generated, right? So you guys may see this like page view information inside of the usage metrics reporting, right? And we actually track some of the load times, right? And we're looking across the product to see like what is the actual user experience of loading a report, right? And how can we track that? So if somebody say checks in an additional security function that causes a regression in the load time, my team's charter is to try to identify that and work with the owning team to get that fixed before any customer ever sees it, right? So ideally, if you guys know about this team, if we're doing our job, you never actually see that we're there. And to support that data science team, we have site reliability engineers which are working on making sure that all the workloads are putting all of the right telemetry into into the tool so that we're capturing good data. And then I have an architect where there's an asterisk there because he doesn't report to me, but he essentially is responsible for that team. He's part of my group. Any questions?
Nothing online. We're good to go.
Cool. All right, so throw this out to you guys, right? What do you got, Bill?
I'll give you some pain points.
Perfect.
Just because I deal with customers all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're here, right?
So I'm a data and AI architect out of the innovation office. This is my office. I work with customers all the time. One, I have to hunt and peck to find the information. How can I surface up what is the bottlenecks, especially in the capacity metrics tool?
Mhm.
How do I surface that up? Also alerting. You have to use data activator, and you just provide us the information to do it. So those are the big ones, the hunting and pecking, and then just the overall
Yep.
usability.
Okay, so I'll say it just so that anybody listening can hear it.
Yes, please.
So he said, Phil said hunting and pecking for data, right? As opposed to just bringing like the details of what's happened forward, right?
Or just surfacing what are those things that are causing
What are the outliers?
problems
What
to the
changed?
capacity. No, not even what changed.
Okay.
What is causing my capacity to have impact to performance,
Got
right? So is it an event stream
Mhm.
that's using up most of the capacity? You might want to,
Yep.
do that. Or is it something else, like a Power BI report or something? How do you?
Oh, it's expert with so.
No, it's expert tools, yeah.
But those are the things that people want, right?
Yep.
They're like, how, it's more, I have to pull up this report and then go find it versus pulling up this report and it telling me what it is. Like,
Yes.
we do a good job of outlining, but it's still pulling up the report and outlining.
Got it. Okay. So can I drill in with a couple questions on that?
Yeah.
Right. So you're inside the metrics app. You see that there is a point in time where you're having constraints on your capacity, right?
Yep.
What do you do?
I pull it up, then I go.
Let me do this. I'm gonna jump over to. Cool.
Pull it up, then I have to kind of go see where am I at on my capacity.
Yep.
So,
Okay, give me a second here. Yeah. Okay.
not that.
So this is your point. This is your point exactly.
So first
There you
is
go.
I
Okay.
have so
We're here.
So first I need to see like in the top right on
Yep.
I'm seeing right
Yep.
top right. Am I at capacity or not?
Yep.
Right, and then I have to kind of then go hunt and peck in that.
So yeah, so let's assume these red lines are your issue, right?
Yep.
So you're saying you have to hunt and peck by.
I have to either go find where those are causing, so then I go down to the bottom, or I have to right click on that.
Yeah. So if you left click on it, it opens up the Explore button,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So then you would drop into your Explore.
Correct.
Okay.
But my point of view is surface that up. Right?
Surface it up.
Run a
Okay.
query that shows
It's
me.
broken. All right. Run a query.
It's a
that-
preview. It's
Yeah,
okay.
it's all right. That's an internal environment.
We're okay.
Okay.
So
but-
Tim, what I'm just saying is think of like being proactive. I bring it up and show me the top 10 things that are
got
causing
it.
my
You're
problem.
saying like from the landing page, can
Yeah.
I call out like what is,
What is
causing this?
impacting me
Okay.
versus me having to go and
Hunt and
figure
peck through the
out
details.
where
Okay.
everything is.
Got it. Okay, so if you had, say, and again, I'm just spitballing ideas, but if
Yep.
you had a little Copilot pane up in the top right corner, and it said, "Hey Phil, you should go talk to Mike because he keeps exporting, a ton of data out of the tool." That would be the type of insights, action-driven insights that you're looking for.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
So things like that, like just making it easier to find those bottlenecks.
Yep.
Makes people's life a lot easier. The
Got
other
it.
one is the whole alerting. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have the ability to alert when I'm over capacity.
Yep. Awesome.
Obviously, so like, how do they do that, right? They have to create a data activator to kind of set that up.
Yep.
Those are
Those
things
are the
that
two
people,
biggest things to trigger. Okay, cool. Hear you loud and clear about the first one having more proactive, right? Like
Yeah.
proactive
insights.
insights on the data as opposed to reactively having to search
Yeah.
for it. And then the other one being alerting and activation, having that more built into the.
Correct.
Okay, awesome.
Sorry, that was
Any
just-
other pain points you want to touch on? Got another pain point? Okay, come over to Gil.
Just to challenge that, why would customers want to have these problems and user-friendly way to monitor them if you can just prevent them altogether. Why would people need to suffer from performance issues where like Microsoft with all the technology and now AI just do the magic to allow users to kind of, exaggerate a bit with their tax and visualization, but don't make the suffering on the administrators, because that's kind of like something, it seems like a doable solution for Microsoft, perhaps not for the customer.
So, well, I mean, so let's just say, again, throwing out hypotheticals just so we can talk through it. So you're saying that Microsoft, if we could provide mechanisms, right, to mitigate disruption to the customer, right? So say you purchase a SKU, you're on an F64, right? And users over here are doing some data science work, all of a sudden, boom, you're over the throttle limits. I would like to say, I don't know how many of you guys have really played with the limits of all the new throttling policies and mechanisms, but like, I'm really happy with how they turned out. I'd love to hear some feedback on that after the presentation. But we have, pretty lenient throttling policies. You overspend on your capacity for, enough to, start hitting throttling limits, right? Which will then impact your customers. What do you want us to do? You want to allow us to be able to scale up your capacity to a certain point to mitigate disruption and then notify you? Is that
give a good experience for the people that create the disruption to know that they will know it as they create them.
here?
So-
Does he have a microphone? Just make
Yep.
sure that.
Yeah.
So like if I'm now a BI developer, Power BI developer, and I'm going to build a visual with some metrics and an opportunity to export to Excel that will create issues. Give me the experience that will allow me to understand, oh, this is going to be bad, so the tenant admin will not suffer every day
Okay.
on like managing that. And
So you're saying if you are going to do something that will hit a limit of the capacity, notify the developer that what they're doing will have impact?
just like work on things that will help the customers to build things that are more efficient without like everyone, all the business, all of us are just like all the experts are focusing on performance optimization instead of business value, right?
Yep.
And even the capacity experience can be about the value and not about just like the constant pain, the technical pain of optimization because people are doing stupid things. And they will never
Yeah.
do that.
Right. Okay, interesting. Cool, yes, great, absolutely great, feedback. How was it going?
We have one more online.
Is it Alex again?
It is Alex again.
Perfect, thank you.
I will also resonate with Alex's pain point here as well. When you have multiple capacities,
Yeah.
there's challenge of just getting everything in one place. So that's, I'm always in the upper right-hand corner. I'm trying to flip between different capacities. So that's another pain point from online. Thank you very much, Alex, for submitting the question. And then we'll also add one other kind of random pain point that I have around this, which is it's finding the balance between smoothing and what is actually occurring on the capacity. So the smoothing is great. It's nice. It's helpful to not overrun your capacity. But there are times when you run into smoothing, it's been going on too long, and you are starting to throttle your capacity. And so alerting around that portion is very helpful. And then when I'm trying to diagnose the problem, the root cause, the smoothing obfuscates, takes away the vision of what was really occurring, what really did cause that one major spike. So I feel like the capacity reporting does a good job showing you that and it's doing better, but I really need to see the two lenses of the world. What is the actual usage versus the smoothing usage, so I can actually go in and troubleshoot when I have problems.
Cool, that's, hear you loud and clear.
Well, so one idea that Tim and I have bounced around is I want to sort of ask the group, would it be useful in that first page in that items table to have a measure, because throttling is based on smooth usage, right? Whereas the item table is showing you the total compute. And so you could have a really big background job that's divided by 1440, right, over 24 hours. Or you could have something that was interactive that was smaller, but had a bigger impact on your capacity. So if you had a measure that said, here in the items table, here's a measure that shows you how much your item contributed to smooth compute in the last 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever, would that be useful? But sort that descending and go, here's the thing that contributed most to my throttling in the last hour.
I think if I had to go back to your response, that's a great point. I think it would solve my problem. I think that would definitely help me out there. And if I could know which activities are being run in the system and say, okay, this activity contributes to 85% of my overrun or the throttling that I'm not perceiving, then that's what I need to. That's for me, the admin. That's what I'm going to go tackle first. Hey, we're going to go train our team more on Excel, not exporting everything or applying filters before they go hit the MDX on these models. I may turn off things in models and not let people go do things from Excel.
Yep.
I'm going to start working with those certified data sets. And for me, the most important thing is I need to go after certified things first. So a lot of what my attention is, okay, what of my certified things are falling over, and do I have non-certified things pushing over my certified elements, because that's going to be a problem. So just again, it's the balance of what's doing what where.
So you're touching on adding an additional dimension for like the certification endorsement processes,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Having that available to you in the metrics app so that you can say, hey, like I care about this stuff and make sure that this stuff runs. Yeah.
You care about both, you just address them differently.
You address them differently. Yes, you care about both of them. You want to prioritize one over the other.
Yes, exactly right.
Got it. Okay. Wuka?
Calling all WooCache.
Yeah.
I'll ping you right now.
Let me give you one other thought around this one. So I have another thought around this one. Like a lot of this monitoring stuff, I don't care about. Like there's a lot of stuff that it just happens. It just runs on its own. I'm not worried about it. I want it to act like my Ring doorbell. I've told WooCache this analogy. It needs to run like my doorbell, right? When there's an event, when something overruns, then the camera turns on. It notifies me this thing happened. I captured high detail events for a period of time, and then it turns off. Okay, everything's back to normal. You're not hearing another alert. So I would like the monitoring to operate. So we're talking about some streaming real-timey things, like we're in Azure. Real-time analytics just went GA. Like there's going to be some, like, give me a hook where I can plug into your real-time stream and let me pick what I'm streaming, right? So, hey, when an event happens that meets this threshold, turn on the faucet, let me collect the data, and then when it's after an hour, I set the limit because again, at the end of the days, I don't want to pay for more things that I don't need to pay for. So when I say the spigot is done turning off after an hour and a half, that's when I want that just to say, okay, it'll just auto tick off, and I'm not expending more money just to have a whole crap ton of events, because I don't want to pay for 65 trillion petabyte data points of data coming through my tenant, especially bigger tenants. So that's another thing I'm thinking too as well.
It's not paying for the storage, it's paying for your time to look through that.
Anything.
Stuff that's worthless.
It's compute. I'm turning on compute and I'm turning on storage. Like all those things, I don't need it if I don't need it. Yeah.
It's also distributed though. It's also you not worrying about having to go through this.
Yep.
Stuff. It's a waste of your time.
Correct.
I'm going to quickly add to that in this. I mean, I need to here. So, because and a big part too is it's that 80-20 rule drives me nuts, but it's always true in terms of what is actually causing capacity limits, what's causing bottlenecks, and I need to get to that quickly. I love seeing everything, and I want to dive into that, but there are situations when you're going to the capacity app. There are times when we're viewing this in a meeting, I'm just kind of browsing, or there's a fire. And a lot of times too, that data is available and it's easy to see if it's, again, from that landing page point of view. So those situations really matter. And I think seeing that 80-20 rule and applying it here makes a lot of sense, because again, I hate that it's always true, but for myself and for clients, it just seems to be the same pattern.
Absolutely. Really exciting, right? Because a lot of the stuff you guys are talking about are pain points that we've heard loud and clear for a really long time, and we've been working under the covers, behind the scenes, to try to get you guys something that'll address it. And the next thing I'm going to do is kind of talk about strategy and what we've heard and what we're building that will address some of these things.
What?
The Pareto principle, that 80-20 rule, right? If you think about like what my team is building, right? What you guys get to see is the analytics layer, right? The customer-facing Power BI reports that are built on top of a very large foundation, right? Think of it as that iceberg. You see 10% above the water, 90% of it is what my team is working to build out for you. And those reports, right? And with admin monitoring, you're starting to see those come out. Those reusable semantic models, right? So like the capacity metrics app is, because of its architecture being direct query, it's not very reusable, but if you look at feature usage and adoption or any of the other stuff that'll be coming out, we're designing those to be star right? Dimensional models. And the intent there is if our report, right, isn't formatted in a way that you like it, the model's really easy to work on. You can build your own content, right? If you want to go and enrich some of the stuff that we have, right, go out and pull in some additional metadata and join it off. What would be a good example? You reach out to Graph API and you grab a cost center associated with a user from Entro, right? And you want to tag that as an additional dimension so you can do, cost of, whatever, cost back, chargeback sort of, reporting, right? Like, you can use our while the reports don't meet your need, right? It's the falling into that 80% of what we get you, that 20%, doesn't meet your need. You can go at the model, you can extend it, you can enrich that. Okay. The next layer below that would be a curated data layer, right? And that curated data layer would be a lot of the Fabric workloads, right? You want access to that data, right? So if we can get you a curated data layer, similar to what you saw for the admin monitor and store, that architecture that's there, I could expose that to you guys, right?
Mhm.
It's sitting in your lakehouse, and you can build on it. What's that?
Suppose it as a shortcut.
As a shortcut, there you go, yeah. And literally be in one lake, and you can go build off of it, right? That's the strategy and the vision of where we're going is build it in a way that the data is accessible to you. And a couple of you guys mentioned wanting the ability to get at the raw events and be able to do alerting. Well, guess what? Underneath all of that are a whole bunch of raw events being streamed into Kusto for us, right? So, yeah, I would say from a strategy and architectural standpoint, everything you guys are saying as far as hey, the stuff that you built is good most of the time, but there, or some of the times, right? But there are cases that we need, where we want alerting, right? Alerting isn't something that's easily done off of our product today. Or, hey, we have additional dimensions that we want pulled in, right? Trying to build something for you that'll address those concerns. I'm going to pause here before I go to the next slide. But any questions or thoughts?
Not online.
All right. Next, we're going to do some peek kind of what's coming. Okay. One of the things that Alex mentioned, thank you, Alex, was capacity management. Right, sucks as a tenant admin because you have to go and go through the drop-through list to pick each capacity. So what we're going to be releasing is a new landing page. We're calling it our help page or help overview page. When you go into the metrics app, it's going to be in the admin monitoring workspace. Right, so it's installed by default. There's no more app configurations and all of that.
Really?
Yes. Go on.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. Awesome. And it'll be in the admin monitoring workspace, and the landing page will be this help overview, which will show you all of your capacities on the tenant, right, by region, whatever. Yes, and so you can drop through and see everything that's there. You can right-click, drill through to get to the capacity page. And you guys may have caught that when I did the demo, or was doing the demo. That is the user experience. And then you can see we have some color, conditional formatting, right? Some color coding to tell you hey, what's the one that needs your attention, right? So hopefully a little bit less hunting and pecking.
But it's still at the capacity, not at the actual.
This is going to tell you, hey, which capacity is on fire, right? So at least it's a better step than having to drop through, tens or hundreds of, capacities within a list, or have somebody come to you and notify you that there's an issue. Cool. Any questions on the capacity help page?
No questions. Lots of comments. Alex Power says multi-capacity monitoring! Exclamation! 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 He's very excited about this feature. So this is very good.
Awesome. Yeah, and I would say that from the technical standpoint, one of the things that we're trying to build towards is a building into the product as opposed to having that ancillary capacity app experience, right? So one of the things that we get out of this is the security model is built off of your tenant admin and your capacity admin roles, right? So instead of having the app where you have to install it and then manage it within Power BI to share it, this is just on by default. There's a single copy of it that's sitting within your admin monitoring workspace. We get into the technicalities of how it gets shared out, but as it's accessible to everyone, right? When you're a tenant admin, you see everything. When you're a capacity admin, you only see your capacities. There's not multiple versions of the report that's out there. Consistently, a good, consistent, integrated user experience.
That's awesome.
Thank you. All right.
Do you need customers to help test that?
Let's chat after. And definitely want to give Chris and Lukash credit for this slide and the next two slides, because some of you who if you have found may recognize this stuff. Cool. The next one, capacity management. Capacity management is chargeback reporting. Okay, so the metrics app was designed for, hey, your capacity has limits. How is all of the CU being spent applied to, right, those capacity limits? Right? What we've found is that a lot of people are trying to understand is like, how much does this thing cost, right? And well, I can't get, I don't have access to any of your billing info. I can tell you in CUs where all of your compute is going, right? So what we've done is we've built a model that's designed for this, what we're calling chargeback reporting, and it shows you the allocation and distribution of CU consumption across your tenant, right? So I'll use the example of like a domain admin, right? Again, this is sneak peek, but when it gets out into the public, like you'll have this your concept of a domain admin. They may have stuff across multiple workspaces, across multiple capacities, and right now there's not an easy way to get a holistic view of everything that you use, right? And where that CU is, right? So this would allow you to be able to buy that dimension, buy that domain dimension, be able to group all of the CU consumption, look to see who's using, what where. Right, and maybe look to see if there's opportunities to do consolidation or optimization, across your entire tenant architecture. Yes.
How does the domains get into that? The public domains.
Yep.
I don't remember if you need the capacity per domain or.
So domain is a construct of it's an attribute on a workspace, right?
But
so
it goes basically kind of like a business unit.
Yeah. I'm going to step over here for a second. I apologize.
Yesterday, we talked about the leaders, so you can.
Okay. So you have a tenant, right? At your top level, and you have the concept of capacities, right? And so your capacities group workspaces, right? But then you can have domains assigned that also group workspaces. So you end up with two mechanisms for being able, right, to group a series of workspaces that both roll up into a tenant. So think of it as like where capacity is, your reserved capacity, and the limits of that capacity are sitting over here, right? Domains are more functional, as in like, your finance domain may have all of the workspaces, for finance across your entire organization.
Will you bring tags in once it goes GA?
What's that?
Will you bring tags in?
Tags, yeah. So tags are another attribute that would be appropriate for us to bring in. Yeah.
But to Gil's question, I think is through that connection to the workspace, you can assign, to Gil's point, through the connection with the workspace, you can assign CUs back to a domain.
Yes.
It's not currently in this view here, but
Correct.
there's no reason why you couldn't assign usage to a domain. If you had a domain assigned to a cost center, for example, or you could assign how much each cost center is using of the capacity.
Of the CU. Yeah. And so, and again, it's not looking at any limits of what the SKUs that you purchase. It's saying, hey, we spent, X number of CUs in total, and 80% of them went to this, workspace, and 20% to these additional workspaces, or by user, look at the breakdown across your entire product, the entire tenant, by user or by capacity, which capacities are consuming, so a bunch of different dimensions. I would suggest.
You can take the user and deduct it from their paycheck if they go over and make that.
I mean, you decide how you want to implement it. I'm just here to get you the information. Cool. I would say, and again, this is another example of that unified experience, right? Where this will be in the admin monitoring workspace, installed by default, no configuration necessary, updated automatically.
Exported via API.
So
Like the CU percentage.
let's talk a little bit about that in one of the next slides. As a matter of fact, it is. Go ahead.
We have one question online.
Yeah.
They're asking for what is a rough quarter time frame of when
All right.
this starts showing up?
Perfect. Thank you for asking this.
Okay.
Because I am engineering and I work off of dependencies rather than dates. Okay. So to explain what that means is, we may come up with 4 or 5 different things that are necessary for other teams to address before we can deliver a feature, right? Sometimes, those teams can fund that, and sometimes they can't, right? So I really need to lean on IPMs to give you the dates that they think might apply. I'll be honest with you, I work off of that concept of, what's blocking me and how can I push to get those dependencies filled, right? So that my product can make it up to market. Right now, I'm blocking that.
Calling Mukesh.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, that would be Chris. What's going on, Phil?
So there's capacity monitoring, and then there's workspace monitoring.
Yeah.
When should I use either or?
Yeah, perfect question. Capacity monitoring is taking a look at the impact that usage is having against the limits of your purchase SKU.
Right.
Okay. Workspace monitoring is like the evolution of log analytics, right? And so that's diagnostic logging, right? That is saying like the analysis services workload generates, the log analytics. So the deal is like the current product when they just workspace monitoring, right? So when the analysis services engine is doing something, it's generating diagnostic logging, and that's what's being emitted out into your workspace monitoring. So if you're trying to understand something like event text, right? So like, what is the DAX query that was run by this user at that time? That's diagnostic logging. That's the appropriate application for workspace monitoring. Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're looking at, hey, how much CU did that spend, or hey, the capacity took over or went into the fraudulent state at this point in time. What were the culprits, right? What was the contributing artifacts or items to that? You would use the capacity metrics app to identify that, hey, it was Phil at this time that caused it, and then you would go over to the diagnostic logging and say, oh wow, you did a cross join, that tipped over the capacity. If we refactored that, we could optimize it. Does that show the distinction?
It shows the distinction, but there's a dependency, right? Workspaces are shared through capacity. I can have capacity that's shared, right?
Yep.
So now I have workspaces that are shared
Yep.
that I don't have half the information.
But
Because I don't have what's happening on the other workspaces that are using that same capacity.
you are correct. Yes, but in the capacity metrics app, you can take a look at what are the largest contributors to.
Right, so now I'm hunting and pecking.
And I'm hunting and pecking. So if I were, and this is something that we've been trying to figure out is how to get that more connected experience.
Correct.
Right. So if we were to say expose some sort of correlation ID within the metrics app that would allow, in the metrics telemetry, that would allow us to identify where in the diagnostic logging that valuable information was, we could build a joint off of it.
Or allow me to get to that report.
So if you take a look at the capacity metrics app, you go to the optional columns, there's something called an operation ID.
Yep.
Right? You'll see the fabric workloads. That's a requirement, that if it's available, they put it there. If you look at any of the, say, the analysis services workloads, right, it's not there yet, right?
Yeah.
That's what we got to talk to the PMs about, prioritizing getting that committed. And then that provides you that correlation ID back to, the what's happening in log analytics, and then we can build an experience.
Right.
So I would
So
say
that's
the foundation
what-
is there.
That's what people are asking for, right?
Yep.
And when I deal with customers, that's what they're, it's like, I gotta go here, then back here, and it just.
And just for those of you listening online, Phil's saying that hunting and pecking of having a disjointed experience between the capacity metrics operation. Yeah, so again, I'm gonna throw it out there, it's just an idea, but if when you're in the operation level details within the capacity metrics app, you see that there's a query that took 60% of your capacity, right?
Yep.
You wanna be able to have that query hyperlink, and you click on the hyperlink and it opens up your log analytics experience filtered to that, your workspace monitoring is what they call it. Yep. To that experience with that detail to show you the event text so that you don't have to go home. Right?
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Let's see, what else? That's actually the notes that I have on here is that deep linking capability, right? With everything being inside of admin monitoring, right? We now have the ability to jump across certain features and fabric monitoring or workspace monitoring, what am I calling it, right, is an opportunity where now those logs are going to sit in a Kusto environment on your tenant, right? Which then make it accessible to us so that we can build deep link, features in the future, right? Whereas today you'd have to spin up a log analytics workspace. It's disjointed from the experience. We're getting closer. Cool. You guys ready to see kind of the highlight of the show?
The best new feature.
The
Let's
best
go.
new feature. All right. So, how many of you are familiar with Real-Time Hub? Right? We're going to start emitting the raw capacity event data out on Real-Time Hub.
So it's not near real time, it's real time.
What?
It's
Near real time.
It's going to be as soon as they can get you that data, they're going to give it to you, and it's going to come out on through Real-Time Hub, so you'll be able to subscribe right to the capacity operation events. There will be 4 tables that we're starting with. So a summary table that gives you an overview of everything that's happening within that 30-second billing window, right? An operation level table every time an operation event is emitted, right? So if you think about that, it kind of goes, horizontally versus vertically, and you can kind of stack the two together. And then a storage table for any one lake or any other workload that's using, storage, and a state event table. So if your capacity pauses, or there's some additional events like, you change the SKU size, or auto scaling or whatever, any sort of state event that comes out, you'll get an event out on that same table. Yes, Dan?
This is the fire hose, not the
This-
read doorbell.
Yes, this is the fire hose. Yeah, you open that door. We're gonna give you all of the underlying information. So back to my my earlier slide of that iceberg, right? This is that foundational layer, that bottom layer of all of those raw events, right? That then it sets the foundation for us to be able to build that curated data layer on top of it, which then allows us to give you those pre-built semantic models that have the reporting. I'm really excited about this. We've been working on it for a long time, years in the making, and we took the opportunity for the capacity team to jump on being the first ones out the door emitting the event data. So,
It's awesome.
cool.
So once that's in place, right, you'll be able to build your own metrics app, right? Build your own chargeback, link it to your workspace monitoring data, and just take it. I mean, hopefully the community will put valuable solutions on top of it that everybody can share. But once you have the data, this is a big ask. You can keep it longer than the 30 days. Lots of good stuff comes from it.
Which is, a couple things there. Yeah, you can subscribe to it. You can capture all of this data stored off and do whatever the heck you want with it, right? If you wanted to reverse engineer the capacity metrics app, good luck. Let me know how you do. Same thing, charge back all of those sets of reporting that you guys want to build out, right? You now have the ability to go off and build that, right? And then, but the other advantage to having these events, just coming through Event Hub, is if you don't care about every event, but you only care about the ones that matter most to you, like, hey, we're 80%, we're at 80% of our capacity, right? What we want to trigger some action, like scale up our capacity, right? Or, say you hit over 100% capacity and you want to pause, pauses in your back, whatever actions you want to drive off of it. This is the tool that enables the feed that enables you to use, that data activator tool to trigger actions.
Yeah, so 2 thoughts here. First, I'm afraid to say anything in case it's on the next slide because it's been getting creepy. But I think this solves 2 items for a lot of admins and users is how can I use real-time Event Hub? And now you're actually giving them actionable data that's relevant to them. And I think it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for I see what else you can do with this product. And then 2, how is this actually from a cost point of view for my capacity? Am I getting charged for the, so in the same fashion?
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the things, like if you go back to the curated content that we're building, right, kind of the deeper below the waterline that you go, my iceberg analogy, right? There's additional inversion cost and complexity and maintenance, right? So going back to that Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 rule is I'm building, right, 20% of the effort to get 80% of the value, right? So my hope is the content that my team is putting out there, right, is providing that initial, lowering the barrier to entry, for people getting on board. And as their organization matures, we're providing the tools that allow you to scale up to the needs of your more mature organization. And I'm assuming, right, that we're building this all out at the hope that, hey, when you get to that point, right, you're going to look at it and say, oh, I see the advantage and opportunity of investing in that area to build out a more mature product. In that space that's bespoke and tailored to the needs of my organization.
And this is just Power BI, because obviously if this was Fabric, it would be a bit of a loop, if correct?
What do you mean? What do you mean by just Power BI?
Just Power BI capacity data, right? It's not, it's all Fabric. So if I said, if I wanted to filter on real-time data here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically saying every time I see a feed,
So yeah, what you would end up, you would end up seeing any telemetry emitted by that workload against that capacity, right? So yeah, if we're trying to monitor, like the recursive thing within the capacity, yes. And so that's a good follow. I'm going to make sure that gets tested. But yeah, I mean, but you would capture the all of the things that are occurring as things are going.
Perfect.
Cool. Yeah. Any questions about this?
What would happen if you ran out of capacity and do that interactive query? Would this shut down?
Yeah. So we're working through how we manage that. And I'll let Varun. So again, this is I am providing the schema to the team that has built this. You talked about tags in machine, right? So my team has built a schema that's getting emitted through this product. That would be Varun, who I mentioned on the earlier slide, and so I'll follow up with him on that.
But in large deployments, this could be a completely separate capacity.
Yes. Yeah. I would agree. From an architectural standpoint, I'd recommend if you're building something up for your organization, you look at scoping it into a capacity that isn't going to get impacted by ground Yes.
But why is it charged as a capacity and not just the other, like the event hub? Because it's not like the customer's data that is working now. It's just like the internal things that you measure and monitor. Why would you put all that compute on the capacity in terms of charging customers? Isn't it like?
You're saying like why? Yeah, why is it applied to a capacity? We're using the capacity as
it sounds like I would pay as part of my license on the event hub and any real-time monitoring, even extracting data outside of the Fabric system.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Using event stream, which uses capacity.
Yes. So if you wanted to take this and store this in a different tool, right?
No, I mean like event stream is event stream, not event hub. So event stream is now Fabric.
Yes.
And not,
Yep. So you can have it as an event stream, but what you'll see is that that's now going to become a Fabric workload, right? And so that the cost, instead of going to your event stream, will go to Fabric.
So,
Does that make sense?
So yeah.
Okay.
I thought about event hubs.
There you go. Cool. And again, like Pat was saying, there's a lot of opportunity that gets created by us exposing this out. As you guys saw earlier, a lot of what my team is doing is building, kind of that foundational aspect that enables you guys to have access to that data, right? So part of the reporting that my team is building is then contributing back to, the data quality being emitted by these events, and that's honestly been a big portion of what my team's been working. A part of my team's been working on for the last couple of years is making sure that when we're at a point where we can show you guys this raw event data, that it's as clean as possible. Cool. That being said, that's the end of my presentation. I'll open it up to Q&A. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble for however long it's been.
Anyone have any questions?
We're so shy with our feedback so far.
True. Not wrong. Want to wrap us up?
Yep. So,
Mr. Mike. Okay, it's not on yet. No.
Oh, and if I did forget to say it, the fun facts section was Alex Powers. He took that slide and made it so when I put the bullet points that all the stuff popped up. Thank you, Alex.
well, let's give a round of applause to Tim.
We do have one last question from yours truly, Alex Powers. Would this telemetry include page-level telemetry, visual clicks, etc., or would we need to go over to BI Pixie to get that information?
All right. So, client-side telemetry is a different feed. right? So if we think about the types of telemetry that my team supports, I talked today about capacity reporting, right? And I was talking about the audit reporting for feature usage and adoption reporting. You mentioned usage metrics, right? Usage metrics is a combination of audit data, right, and client-side telemetry. Am I asking a question? Is that where you're grabbing it?
No.
No.
That's what Alex Powers' question
Yeah,
is.
so what's that?
So I think Alex is trying to put a plug in for Power BI Pixie.
That's good, yes. I
This
think,
is a new separate technology outside completely what Microsoft collects.
Yep.
Everything is external.
perfect, yeah, and I would say, and from my side, the usage metrics, right, that usage metrics page view information is actually captured inside of client telemetry. So I'm gonna, I'll pause here, and I'll show you guys what that would look like. So if we're on a page, we open up Dev Tools, we take a look at our network trace events, I go and I refresh. I apologize if this, puts people to sleep again. Give it a second to load. When you load a Power BI page, right, we capture certain browser-based telemetry, and we send that back for us to analyze, right? So if you look in the browser trace logs, what you'll see is these certified event records, wherever they are. For some of them, I didn't have this queued up, but now I'm not going to be able to find them. Well, here, let me go find it afterwards. I apologize. I'm trying to do a live demo.
There's a filter at the very top corner, just to your cursor, just a little bit lower. Nope. Right there, just above that, just above there. You might be able to type in what you're looking for there. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so yeah, if we take a look at what the certified event payload looks like, and we go to our open report events, you can see this is all the information that we grab every time that a page loads. So you'll see the information in here, like what the consumption method is, the location as to where it is, all this information, what the name of the data set is, all that sort of stuff, right, gets captured. There's some really interesting ones that are in here, which is the DEX query duration, render duration, all that sort of stuff, right? And as we look forward to what additional content that we're looking to put out there, right, my team works on getting all of this telemetry in place on the front end, as we were talking about with my team structure, right? And we're making it available on the back end. So some potential things you guys might see coming out really soon would be an update to the usage metrics reporting, right? That would have a holistic tenant-wide view instead of a by workspace view, right? With some additional telemetry, like what is the actual user experience of our report points. And it would be separate and complementary to any of the other stuff that is out there.
Thank you for that.
In addition, right, we talked about the workspace monitoring. Those AS events has some good like report ID, visual ID in the data there as well. So
Yep.
there's a lot of opportunity there as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you take a look, there's actually, yes, so you can then take some of the client-side telemetry that's out there and correlate that to what's happening in the diagnostic logging, the log analytics. So yeah, connecting all the dots on everything to go back to Phil's thing of like creating a more unified experience, right? Part of that is the plumbing to get all of the data available, and that's what we're working on.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you guys.
All right, we're just going to do some quick house items, and then we'll get you out of here on time. Quick house items, and then that's because I'm doing chat.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Awesome work, man.
You're good.
It's great. I didn't have an
Try the other port.
No, they didn't want me. Oh.
That's the one all day local.
Yeah, right?
I'm not an expert.
There we
Okay.
go.
So, just a few things as we kind of move forward here. First off, we are planning to do moving forward, not snag it, a lot more in-person events, in person and also do it online. We're hoping to do at the very least, a bi-monthly cadence of in-person events here at Microsoft. So, and we're gonna really want to push this for you guys. Bring your friends, bring your old friends, bring your new friends. A new thing that's also going to come along too is we have a really strong consideration we've heard back from Microsoft and also other user groups. Rather than always doing the 6 p.m., which has been since the dawn of time, that we're going to try to move towards earlier in the day, around 2 or 3 p.m. But we want your feedback on this. Does that work for you? Could you get out of work? We know a lot of other local user groups have seen really great numbers from this, and that's something we want to try. But please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Meetup, Mike as well, however you can reach us on whether that would work for you or not. And again, for those here and those online, we want to start to do that, especially in the winter. It's already dark as it is. That being said, we already have things being planned. We're not going to do a in-person event in December. Enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your holidays. However, in January, we're finalizing the date, but we already have the next few months planned out. We're going to do a speed hackathon. So we're going to try to do a collaboration with Milwaukee user group. We're going to see what we can do. But the idea is this: we're going to get you in small groups. You're going to do a project that you only have 30 minutes to do, that takes an hour to do, and we're going to see how you can innovate and figure it out in that time with the group. We have some good prizes to give away. We're still working on those prizes, but they'll be awesome. So we're really trying to bring your friends, bring your team if you have a team of doing that. Say you guys are the best on fire Power BI Fabric users out there. In January, we're going to do workloads, and we're going to do it with Mike Carlo, because Power BI Tips is one of the first three workloads in the Fabric environment ever. So Mike's going to talk about workloads and what you can do with that. So if your business is doing a lot of embedding, doing a lot of products, you can actually see how you can do that. Bring your CEO, bring your CCO. And we're going to have a call for speakers in March as well. If you have something exciting to talk about, whether it's an hour or 10 minutes, we want to really spotlight you. So that's actually something we really want to do, because we want to hear back from you guys. Again, it's not just about doing sessions. If you have something neat that you want to share only for 5-10 minutes, we want to spotlight you. So please reach out to me or Mike as well. And finally, we just want to thank you, Tim, for your amazing presentation and the preview features that you're going to give to everyone only in person here today. Thank you, Gil, for also demonstration of Power BI Pixie and what it can do. Thank you, Mike, for being literally the entire audio and video, seeing us in person, and help put this together. Thank you, Microsoft. Otherwise, thank you for you guys. Again, you're coming after work, for work, on a work week to learn about work. We want to make this worth your while. We want your feedback. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day.